All right, what's up, everybody? Wall Street Jesus Tuesday post game show. We get together every Tuesday. For those of you who are new to the webinar, go over some of the action we've been seeing early week. In this case, just one day because of the holiday, and try to maybe get some sort of game plan together, an idea of what to look for the remainder of the week. All right, then I'll take some questions from you guys from anything from strategy to flow, to names that you're interested in, anything that's on your mind. This is the place to ask. And those of you who are members, a lot of members on here as well, again, don't shy away from any questions or anything you may be unfamiliar with as far as flow is concerned. All right. Hold on. I just wanted to post this on private Twitter so we could take a look at it. All right. All right. So basically, today we come back from a long weekend, and we run into little news out of Italy that's sort of been percolating, I would say, in recent days. Believe it or not, we were hearing, the tariff, the China stuff, the this, the that, all Trump affiliated in some sort of manner. But underneath it all, there was a little action stemming up in Europe, and we walked into it this morning. We were off yesterday, sort of got magnified a bit. All right, nobody knows with these things. If I had a dollar for every time this was going to materialize into something bigger and take down all of Europe, I'd be a retired multi-billionaire. Okay, we went through it with Greece numerous times. People give the excuse, it's too small, it's too big. Nobody knows. Nobody knows whether this will develop into some sort of systemic, risk, something bigger than what we see in front of our eyes right now. Okay, you can't play this game, especially the type of traders we are. We can't play this. We can't trade with that outlook and us worrying about that big picture wise. Okay, because there's always something that can develop into something bigger and take this, or larger, more important, and take this market down. We got to deal with the evidence in front of us at the time. What things are looking like, and for us, a lot of us in the room, it's price, flow, and sentiment, and make best decisions according to all that. All right, so there's nothing that, I don't care how intelligent you are, how savvy you are when it comes to European economics and bonds. Okay, there's nothing out of what we were hearing today that you're really going to have much clarity on. Okay, we will know in coming days, weeks, whether this again just ends up another fart in the wind. You guys remember Deutsche Bank, how long ago they were calling it the next Lehman, and it was ready to go south imminently. It's still around and still looking like crap. All right, so it goes to show you, even when you're wrong, even when you're somewhat right on that Armageddon thesis, look how long things take to play out. That Deutsche Bank, when was that? What year was that? Is that 2016? When Deutsche Bank was really, they were labeling it the next Lehman Brothers. You guys remember that? DB is the symbol there. Let's go to daily here. Hey, look how awful this thing looks. Awful. Okay, in this October 2016, Kai saying. And granted, if you were worried about it or you had concerns about Deutsche Bank and how bad things were, you weren't wrong, right? You were right, obviously. You were wrong that maybe it ended up something larger, something, systemic, as they like to call it. So that's why it doesn't pay to get wrapped up into these things. It is what it is. And for example, I use this example a lot for those of you guys who maybe didn't trade through 2008. Ironically, the subprime nonsense was something that got brushed aside. Okay, in other words, a lot of times they over exaggerate on the negative side. Subprime was something that a lot of people were just shoving to the side, and it wasn't anything to worry about. And believe it or not, that ended up, lighting the match to take down everything. So as more and more evidence comes out, and the only approach to take with that is day by day. Price is usually going to be the leading indicator in telling you how bad things look. But at the same time, you don't want to get too carried away with price, because that's where opportunity lies as well, right? If price is doing one thing, but flow and sentiment is showing us the other side, that's what a lot of us in the room, a lot of Steam Room members look at as an opportunity. Okay, but we take the evidence we have at hand every single day, and that's where we look to make calculated bets and decisions. Okay, so aside from that, forget about Italy. More importantly, without even the news out there, okay, we were seeing signs of what this market was starting to look like. And to be honest, what it looks like is just going into seasonally what's a blah period. Okay, it doesn't mean it's always going to be like that, but the whole sell in May, go away, blah, blah, blah. The summer volume really dries up. Okay, you get a lot of exaggerated moves on an intraday basis. Okay, so we're going into that type of climate, and we've been seeing evidence of that following a decent rally off the lows, okay, where there was a lot of pessimism. So if you guys remember last week, we were talking on this webinar. I get them all confused, the Saturday webinars, this webinar, but if I recall, we were talking and discussing on this webinar how the best case scenario, what we could hope for out of this, based off the flow we're seeing and based on where sentiment was at that current time, it becomes a stock pickers type market. Okay, meaning that you don't have to rely you don't have to rely as heavily on the overall markets, because if we are entering a little phase here where things, a lot of names got overdone to the upside, right? Energy scorched, so had to cool off. It is. Okay, there was a lot of bullishness in tech and etc. So we would need to see some of that good-looking flow go into selective names and areas. Okay, and another sign of that it may happen that way was we had IWM outperforming everything. Okay, so a lot of the better looking action out there, a lot of the better looking performance out there has been in under the hood, I wouldn't say under the radar, but under the hood names focused domestically. And it makes sense. Okay, it makes sense with with Europe not looking as great. We have our economy looking better than most out there. So the whole thesis makes sense out there. So I think nothing has changed. Even with this Italy news out of today after the long weekend, I think it makes even the stronger point to what we were seeing, and talking about and discussing last week. Okay, the only thing that was lacking today on the day as far as flow, we really didn't see any new names see that type of activity, and we're the list has really run dry here. We were talking about that a little bit earlier this morning. I give an example. Remember, off the lows, there were several, from large cap to mid cap to small cap, but there was some really good looking activity in select names. You had the PayPal, which was probably the best of the bunch. Under their hood names like an IQ or a Box, names of that caliber. So you had Energy, of course, which, when it got too out of control in a sense, we started to run out of initial activity names. Okay, there was nothing new. All right. So that's where we are now and what we need to start seeing, in my opinion, at a flow. Um, Otherwise, the longer you go without that, I think that's where you run the risk of flow and everything else turning south and going bearish on us. Okay. And that's why I'm a big believer of the flow, because if there is any strength in the market, any pockets of strength, if this market has any legs to rally, further to the upside, we're going to see that at a flow. We're going to see that. We're going to see money move from sector to sector. That'll be a good indication that the markets will hold up, that we shouldn't see any serious downside. So that's where I think flow, can provide a big edge and become really important. It will tell us a lot about what this rally may look like going forward. Okay, so we need to start seeing that now. For example, again, last week we were talking about the staples, right? The names that got beaten the hell out of, starting to see some activity. The squeeze names, in a sense. Predominantly, that's all I played last week were squeeze names, because some of the other stuff was, a little too much on the hot side for me. So you had the Clorox, the CL. We went over several of those names. Okay, so even those names had somewhat of a squeeze. Maybe they breathe and they see some further tack on action there. But we need to see some new names added to the list here. I really don't know, what sectors they may be in. As far as, that's another thing we were talking about earlier this morning in the room. Actually, we were talking about it last week. If you look at individual sectors and the sentiment there, everything was on the hot side. Almost everything was on the hot side. The only exception to that was consumer staples and I think housing. Somebody mentioned to me this morning. Aside from that, you had tech, which got a little hot. Energy, again, scorched. Biotech was up on the hot side. A lot of things out there. The industrials, you remember, went from everybody hated them to everybody wanted them again. So they were a little hot. Now, some of these things have cooled down over the last couple of days. So, that's also a plus. That's also a plus. Because maybe if there is a correction in price in these things, they can always set up again. All right, so that's kind of where we are currently. As far as on the sentiment front, all right, that's in regards to flow. On the sentiment front, thanks to today, we're really close to having some bullish signals out there over the short term. Okay, meaning that we come into the rest of the week here, any decent flow into some further weakness will, we're going to look at that as an opportunity rather than be cautious. Okay, but to be honest, we're already in that frame of mind. We're relying on the activity here. The flow has become more important now, where we need to see some action, not to sound like a broken record, but that's what it comes down to. We need to see some new action out there. We need to see some new action. I'm sure you guys have a ton of names that you're interested in. I'm sure half the list or half of you guys are probably going to ask about Micron, but this at a flow, this doesn't tell me what the answers I'm looking for. It tells me there's still momentum in Micron. Okay, because Micron is still seeing sweeper activity. It tells me, Micron is in a bullish trend. We know this already. We know this already. And to be honest, Micron will continue higher as long as it continues to see bull flow and market permitting. But that's as clear as an answer as you're going to get on names like this. In my opinion, in my mind, the way I look at it is, Micron, you put a check mark next to it and it's done. There's no real edge at a flow here until we see some sort of breather or consolidation. Same approach I was stressing to you guys out of the energy camp. Out of the energy camp, we continue to see bullish activity. They continue to go higher, it seemed like every day seemingly. But when a chart looks like this, littered with flow, risk reward wise, you don't have much of an edge, especially off flow. You cannot weigh, again, you cannot weigh the action down here as equally to the action you're seeing up here after a move like this. And you basically have to make the decision depending on what type of trader you are, not only day trader, swing trader, but over what period of time. You have to look at it and say, risk reward wise, is it worth it for me to start and initialize a position here? Am I likely to see enough upside to lock in a profit before this thing corrects or takes a breather? That's what you have to look at in names like Micron here. And that applies to a lot of stuff out there. A lot of stuff out there, not just Micron. All right. And on the flip side, there's some names that I'm hoping will catch further activity. I'll give you an example. We spoke about this name a couple of times here. Spot. Hasn't really done much of anything. If you bought the lows, you probably had small, quick trade of upside. Today, a little bit of weakness. But this is an ideal setup for some sweeper activity to come in. And risk reward wise, I think will play out nicely. The issue is the most important ingredient right now hasn't showed up. It hasn't showed up. It may. Maybe tomorrow we walk in and there's spot sweepers all over the yard tomorrow. The only thing I've been buying for myself as far as swing trading is concerned, you guys know last week I started a position in Campbell Soup, November's. Most of the stuff that I've been swinging as far as new positions here all look like this with time. I bought some RRC today. That was the only thing I bought as far as anything new swing trade. You guys know this name. The energy name was a laggard out of the bunch. Finally started to get going, saw decent flow, and then oil corrected, which was overdue. And now still seeing action, but you got a little bit of a pull here. So rather than chase up here, you got a little bit of a breather here you can look at. All right, but that's this is the stuff that I'm looking at. And to understand, guys, and I stress this too, it's hard because it's more of a feel thing with me. Like last week, we saw what the flow looked like, and you could almost sense the squeeze was on in certain things. Like you guys in the room know what I'm talking about. Like the CL, I didn't even swing that. I was playing it every day looking for the squeeze. Because every day, little nibbles at it, right? Looking for that squeeze. So that's more of a feel thing for me. If I'm going to swing a name like Campbell Soup, they got to force my hand to do it. They really got to twist my arm to do it. Meaning, there's got to be, I usually ignore the first 3 orders in the name. And then finally, by the 4th, 5th, and 6th order, I'm like, okay, I have to own it. Okay, I have to own it. Whether I win or lose is irrelevant. That type of action I have to own. So that's the approach I take with these slower names like this. Because these aren't the ideal trade names, obviously. So, but that was the last batch of action we had off this last rally. Off this here. As we were chopping around sideways here, that was the last batch that really didn't move yet, were those names. Okay? And they started to catch action later on in the rally. So just to sum it all up, I think this market is pretty much in the same scenario we've been in. Okay? You don't want to try to avoid chasing green. We know that already. Okay? You don't want to come in late to the move. Preferably, you want to buy off weakness. And you want to stay selective, meaning you want to, right now, a couple, if we got a little more weakness, that can change. But right now, you don't want to rely too heavily on the overall market You want to look for the best of flow in individual names, so this way you can see some outperformance there. All right, so this way if the market chops around, not every name is going to be an outperformer. You're going to have, I'm sure, losers here and there, but at least you have a chance to catch an IQ that can outperform while the market really doesn't do much. That's what we're looking for here. But it becomes a lot more difficult. It becomes a lot more difficult. I told you guys, for me, I got this question a lot, if you guys remember, because people were saying the same thing. Some members were saying the same thing, that this market we were in prior, the correction, we didn't mind it, okay, because it was pretty clean, cut, and dry. Wait for the bears to lean on the put side and look for a squeeze. You could play the overall market. You could play high beta. You can play whatever you think is going to squeeze with it, okay? Now what we're in is a little more difficult because we're relying on flow more, but the flow is not there yet. Okay, if we see the flow explode in some under the hood names, that would be great. That would be ideal. Okay, that would be ideal. But for some of you who trade some of maybe the bigger names and stuff like that, you just got to be careful with chasing for the most part. That's what I would suggest. Just be careful with chasing. You chase, like, for example, what I mean by that, you chase a Bob on a green day, any of these days here, look what the hell you ran into. So it becomes a tougher game here. It becomes a tougher game. Anybody have anything to add as far as this, what we're talking about here, as far as the overall market and stuff, or any names in particular that may apply to what I was just going through here? For me, I want to see names like this name caught a little more action today, ERI. I want to see initial activity like that again. I don't want to see ERI repeat activity up here now. Even though this thing looks great, it was catching the action down here. This is not the market I want to climb the ladder 10 points and, rebuy something. If that was the case, I would have held my initial position. So Amazon, again, it looks good. It looks good. It looks like Netflix. Looks like any of them. I mean, Facebook saw action today, but it's nothing new there. You know what I mean? For flow, flow's not providing much of an edge in these names right now. That's my point. That's the point I'm trying to make. All right, that's the point I'm trying to make. I think a lot of, especially newer traders to flow, they don't realize that flow, especially in individual names, doesn't provide the same edge at all times. So for example, for flow to provide an edge out of Facebook, believe it or not, even though I couldn't even build up the coconuts to buy it, I would need to see a missile into the weakness. There was a missile into the weakness. I didn't buy it, but there was, or some consolidation or a pullback or stuff like that. And I'm talking about swing trades here. Now, on an intraday basis, where flow would provide an edge is if you got some weakness and, all of a sudden a bunch of Facebook sweepers come into the weakness, you may have an opportunity at some momentum change right there. But right now here, this is where it becomes a little more difficult. The buying started up here into the blood, continued, and we still see it today. At some point, a batch of these buyers are going to be wrong, right? If they started down here and they continued all the way to literally today, at some point they're going to be wrong. Your best setup, your best risk reward comes off that initial activity or the early stages of that activity, which is down here. Similar like the PayPal. We were talking about that, remember? Okay? Similar to the PayPal. The PayPal saw action here into the blood, right? That's where it started and still continues to see action. But it's just not the same setup risk reward wise up here as it was down here when they first started buying it. That's the point I'm trying to make. So when you ask me about a Micron or a PayPal or an Amazon, I really am being honest with you guys. I don't have, and you could probably sense it. It's almost that dull rebuttal I give you, because it's just not the same magnitude, like Micron sweepers into the lows. It's just not the same bang. It tells you the flow is bullish, the trend is bullish, the stock is bullish. That's all great until it's not, right? And you really don't know when that is. So what are the names? I'm trying to think of other names that we could keep an eye on, like the Spot, for example, because there's quite a few of them. Another name you guys remember, Square. Same thing. Still seeing bullish activity. And Ancient, you see how it's just having a tougher time up here now. Still getting the job done. Still grinding higher. But it's a tougher time up here. It's a tougher time up here. Not everything, unfortunately, not everything is WWE. And that, by the way, that's another name, that under the hood type name. That's why I get excited. That's why I want that action, guys. Because this what can happen if you catch it right, which I rarely do because I sell them before I even hold them, before I even bought them. But you know what I mean. That's what I'm looking for, the next WWE like that to see action, the next ERI and stuff like that. Charlie saying, if I haven't already mentioned it, tell him about the Thursday webinar on options swing trading. Charlie, if I knew what webinar that was, I just realized we had a webinar just now, 5 minutes before we started this. I was so dizzy today. Lucci breaking down. All right, so Thursday, Charlie's telling me Thursday we're having another webinar on option swing trading, where Lucci's going to break down a couple things, talk a little bit about his Netflix swing trade, how he set it up, what he was looking for there. So Thursday's webinar, same place, just like last week. We did one Tuesday and Thursday. We'll talk about a little bit more on the swing trading options end. All right, let's look at some of the big stuff today. You can see some of the bigger order flow. There was, guys, if you put a gun to my head right now, tell me the top sweeper, call sweeper out there today. I don't know. As far as, initial activity, I don't think I have one. There was some block activity, some big time size out there on the block side. I'll give you two of them right now. You can keep an eye on. One was, what the hell is that symbol? FLT. This is what the daily looks like on the FLT. Two monster, there was actually a little bit more. I think there were 2-3 monster blocks. Clean, as far as I can see, not tied to stock, nothing reported there. All right. There was a sweeper, smaller sweeper that front ran the blocks that came in, but that was it. There was no other sweeper activity around it. Had a really powerful rally today throughout the afternoon off the activity. You can see here. So you could see this was the first block here, had a pop, and then the stock continued. I think the market was selling at the time, continued lower. Then there was another block that came in, and I think another one after that. And this is how she played out the afternoon. Not a bad looking chart as a whole, though. You guys know I'm a sweeper guy, though, but not bad. Something to keep an eye on, name to keep an eye on for sweeper activity. What else do we have? Deer caught a big block today. DE. Again, block, not sweeper activity. I can pull that order up for you. Anybody like this deer out of curiosity? Anybody looking at deer? Hold on. Okay, you see it right there? That's the order right there. Let me highlight it. August 160s. Block got filled on ARCA. 575. It was a big block. Anybody like deer? No deer fans? No deer fans. We should probably load up then. Somebody load up. Let me erase this. Okay. ABBV, I would ignore that action in ABBV. Both sides, puts, calls, a lot of tied action there. A lot of block activity in ABBV tied to stock. So just in case you had that pop on your scanners today, there really wasn't much. Anybody have any names that maybe I haven't mentioned? Let's see. Anybody see any names that I'm missing? They were buying the Greek ETF today. So how bad could Italy be if they're buying the Greek ETF for a bounce? GREK. Let's see. GME had some action. They have earnings. The banks are tough. I see a couple of you asking about the banks. Listen, there's going to be bounces in the banks. Now with this Italy overhang, you got to worry about that headline news, you know? So, I don't know. Me personally, I'd probably look elsewhere for now. There might be opportunity there, but I would look elsewhere for now. Anybody like any energy names? What about energy? Anybody get long any energy off the pullback? I figured that'd be something you guys might be looking at. Hold on, where is this? Ranchero saying he bought some PXD. That's been a good looking name, right, Ranchero? PXD. PXD had some real nice action, had a huge ramp, finally a pullback. You know, because this, I don't know what you guys feel about this. You know, crude is always tough, but you know, we wanted this pullback. You know, that's kind of the reason why I just bought that RRC today, even though it's a pig. We were waiting, you know, we wanted this energy pullback. So we really want to pay attention to the flow there, even if we're early, because you see what happens when things get hot. You never get that re-entry. You know, it's not like it used to be. I mean, it's a whole different market. I'm not trying to sound like an old man, but you used to have, you know, things back and fill and, you know, form out a bottom in a sense, you know, shake people out before the move. Now it's just ramp city. You know, they just, boom, takes off and you never see that entry again. So that's why my feeling is if you're off a pullback, you can't be too scared of being too early for a swing trade. You're better off being early because sometimes you're late, you miss the whole trade. Just make sure you have time. That's all. Steven saying he bought some EOG. Yeah, I know you. I mean, RRC. You were looking at it. EOG. That's another one that had a big ramp. We didn't see too much energy flow today, but it's one day. We'll see what happens the remainder of the week. You know, I think it's a must watch on weakness energy. Must watch. You know, on green days, But any red days that we see some flow in, you got to keep an eye on it. Hess has been one of the best names off flow. Yeah, look at this. Yeah, it's a Nora. That move was just crazy. It's a normal pullback. Some of you guys are talking about MRO holding up okay. That caught some big Jan buying, right, recently, MRO. No, DVN had a June guy close today, Ranchero. So maybe he rolled if you're talking about a different order. Had some closing activity, DVN, in June. But he could be pushing out, rolling out. This was another good one. This is what, you see the DVN, this is what I'm hoping for here on this RRC. I'm hoping a laggard that just, they light up. Because there's been decent action, but this thing is a pig, this RRC. This is a real pig. Yeah, this is one of those names you really got to twist my arm. There's got to be good look, some size activity there for me to buy it, because I've been burnt off flow in this. What's just like every other name, though, right? With crude. Look at this thing. Oy, oy, oy. Yeah, XOM had some small action today, small for XOM. I was hoping to see a little more. I'm not going to lie to you. I was hoping to see a little more in crude. Because it's one of the sectors off a nice pull. See, here's the thing we were looking at this morning from Sentiment Trader to give you guys an idea, those of you who weren't around this morning. You see this here? That's that sector ETF thing from Sentiment Trader. So, you had crude was scorched. This is more of a moving average. I think it's based off a moving average, so it's not the raw data. So it lags a bit. It's more for position trading. You don't want the raw data moves around too much. But you can see, look at all these groups here. Like, we're coming off heat, every single one of them almost. The only ones were, again, you had housing, which is kind of neutral, and staples, which now has rallied back to neutral. IBB not as hot as some of the others, but energy was scorched. Financials on the hotter side today will help. Industrials, you may not realize it, but got hot. Retail has been performing nicely, got hot. So, yeah, you look at this stuff, it gives you an idea of where things may find trouble, a little trouble to the upside. You don't have to look at them as a sell indicator, just risk reward where things may have trouble. And, you see these things up near the red line, you definitely don't want to chase, put it that way. That's the last thing you want to do. But just to give you guys an example of what I was talking about earlier on the sentiment side, sector-wise. Hold on, I got a question here. Cole saying, explain how you know an option trade is tied to stock. Sometimes Trade Alert doesn't flag it, and the block timestamp is not exactly the same. Should I assume that if the stock board roughly matches? Couple things. If Trade Alert sometimes will report it. If you use Trade Alert, Cole, I don't know what you're exactly looking at, what command. You can hit me up on private Twitter in the room, and I can send you exactly what I look at on Trade Alert. But a lot of times, guys, the problem is we don't know right away at times. And what I mean by that is it may not be tied now. An order may not be tied, but who's to say that that player doesn't come in tomorrow and sell a block? You know what I mean? So even though we get some of the information that, some of it that gets reported tied at that given time helps. That's why, Cole, I really blocks in general, I take with a grain of salt. Sweepers are rarely, if ever, tied. That's one of the big reasons I got a sweeper fetish. What size option block would you follow? See, that's, I'm a sweeper guy, right? That was the next part of your question. It doesn't matter. See, here's the thing, Cole. The bigger the block, the more it scares me away. So I can't, asking me if there's a size threshold, it doesn't even apply. The bigger the block, the more I can't believe it's a legit bet. So, in other words, somebody comes in, like the other day, I don't know if you guys, I don't think even the scanner picked up on it because it was tied, but make a long story short, Workday, I think it was Workday or W, one of those, it might have been W. Anyway, there was a huge block that went off on the call side. I think it was like 15 million, 20 million. Like, and Cole, before even, I didn't even have to look, and I would have put my life that it was tied. Because based off experience, I know that a player, an algo, a syndicate, they're not going out there buying 20 million in a block, legit, and betting on a direction, clean, unhedged. You know what I'm saying, Cole? So the bigger the block, the less believable it comes. For me, here's how I would approach it, Cole. Again, this is my opinion. You may talk to others who look at flow and have a different opinion. I need to see sweeper activity at least around that block. Okay. But then there's sweeper action, right? So it kind of defeats the purpose. But if a block is legit, I know that sweepers are going to come in and play around that block. That's what sweepers do. Any legit action, sweepers want in. You understand? Exactly, Cole. Exactly. Cole's talking about IGT. There were several blocks in IGT. Some of them were tied, but sweepers came in playing, so you knew there was some legitimacy to the action there, Cole. You understand? Sweepers are the tell-all for me, because, like, in my opinion, they're the momentum of the market. Maybe, it's a little too far-fetched of a statement, but that's what I'm saying. There's not going to be a legitimate rally or squeeze without sweepers involved. Like, if I see a market rallying and there's no sweeper activity coming in, that raises red flags, caution flags to me. Because for sweepers not to participate in it, something's not right. They sift out the news, right? We see algo sweepers, every little chatter rumor out there, boom, there's a sweeper to it before. Not only that, Cole, we see sweepers now more than ever. This is what we were talking about, Stephen and I, today. They sift out size activity before the size activity even comes in, which is ridiculous. Like, for example, today, there was a small sweep in this FLT, okay? And it stood out because this is not a name that catches sweeper activity. And it just looked weird, okay? Literally 25 seconds later, there was a huge block on the call side and made that guy pay up 50 cents higher than where the sweeper got filled. So because I think sweepers are so machine-oriented, they sniff out anything, chatter, news, squeeze, you name it. So that's why I stress the importance of it, and not to really rely on the size out there, because size could be misleading. Don't get me wrong. You guys know I love size, but there's got to be sweepers around that size to confirm it. That's the way I look at it, Cole. That's the way I look at it. For example, deer, right? That was a big bet today, wasn't it? If I'm not mistaken, the deer. I don't know exactly dollar amount, what the hell that was. Oops, where am I going here? I'm dizzy. Deer, where was it here? Let's just see. I'm curious. Oh yeah, we just looked at the order. It paid $5. That had to be a decent amount. Hold on. What time was that deer bet? Damn it! Why don't I just do this? Idiot I am. All right, here's the deer bet. 2 mil in a block. Okay, so for me to have an interest in this, there has to be sweeper activity there. You understand? Like, I'll take this order every single day of the week over this order, even though it's double because of the lightning bolts. You know, so that's again, that's off my experience, and why I'm such a big sweeper guy, because it's clean action. It's clean. Like for me, when I see a sweeper, I don't even look to see if it's tied. It's not even a concern. It's not a concern. So to answer your question, Cole, this is the way I look at it, and I guess you'll understand. You see how I act towards earnings flow, right? Or any news event or the Fed or anything where there's a lot of noise and hedging going on. Why do I take it all with a grain of salt? Because I know the probability of that order flow being clean, the odds of it being clean go down dramatically. Okay. The same thing with blocks. You know, I know sweeper activity is clean as a whistle, and blocks more than not aren't. So why am I going to get too hung up on block activity? You know, I'm not that big of a degenerate. Yeah, put sellers, they come in blocks. I wouldn't, you know, I don't look at it the same way, but keep in mind they could be tied. You know, they could be tied, and you're better off when they're sweeping and hitting the bid. So the same thing applies, but less so, I guess you could say. You know, you just that's the way it is. And you know what it is, Cole? It wasn't like what it is today. In other words, that because of how long this, I hate to use the word long because we have had correct pullbacks, breathers, but because of this bull market, I guess the length of it, without any humongous correction, there's been more and more tied action. You know, a lot of people want to take off principal risk. You want to, in other words, they still want to be along for the ride, but they want less principal involved. So they sell stock and they replace it with calls. You know, a lot of people that I've met throughout my career look at that as bullish. Not me, because I'm looking at the flow differently. I'm not looking for just bull flow. I'm looking for aggressive bull flow, you know? Nick is saying, Wall Street Jesus, can you discuss Celgene? Yeah, Celgene caught some action today. It was leap activity, right? So it was sweeper activity. So that answers your question as far as the action being clean. There was a September block, I think, canceled and replaced a couple times. I don't know where that ended up. But if you, Nick, like somebody was asking me the question about leaps, you know, they like to build positions over time. You can look at that Celgene sweeper, and if this name was on your radar, you know, for a long-term position, look at it as such. This is what Nick is talking about. This is the action in Celgene today. All right, this September block on the top, I don't know what the hell the outcome was. That canceled a couple times. Okay, that's another thing with blocks. They cancel, every other one cancels and corrects. Okay, and sweepers less so. But here's the action he's talking about. June 2019. So June of next year. $95 sweepers. All right. So again, just keep in mind the time there, you know. If you, what is this? Audio has been lost. There's audio restored now. I don't know. So yeah, if you guys want to take a longer term approach, Celgene's on your list. Off that action, you can, you know, you could treat it as such. But good questions. Let me get to a couple other questions here because you guys got some good ones. IGT, yeah, I actually added a little IGT today. I would still say I got a smaller position. I don't have a full size position, but I bought a little more into the weakness. This thing continues to sell. Julys, they continue to buy. I think they rolled out some Junes to July as well. So I like the name, have a little bit of time. We'll see. If I see a really, really good looking order there, they've been small July sweeps. Not too small, but, okay action. If I see a missile come in, I'll definitely add and have a full position in this IGT off the weakness. Oh, but they're selling this thing hard. You can see here. The other one had a little put selling SGMS. That looks great. Total opposite IGT. That looks great. Yeah, there's no names in particular, guys. The best action out there in individual names is in the Campbell Soup Novembers. All right, and it's the worst looking stock on the face of the earth. That's the best initial activity in an individual name out there. Everything else has already lifted, and is repeat action. A lot of the names you guys are talking about, mentioning here, a lot of repeat activity there. Let's see here. Tim is saying Rig might be worth a look. There was a little flow there as well today. Rig has been bombarded with flow this past rally. Nice pullback. So we'll see. I'm hoping they get more aggressive in this energy sector. WLL has had flow. I haven't seen anything really stick out, but WLL was littered with flow this whole trip up. Look at this move. Wow. Wow. And this is, they reverse split too, right? I think this reverse split, this WLL. I'm almost, yeah, it had to. What else we got? MLCO, yep. You got some repeat activity there. Decent looking name. Doesn't excite me, but decent looking name. Just slower mover. Chop, grind, chop, grind. You get a little bit of weakness you had today. You can buy some. Maybe it comes down a little bit more. Look to buy it there, but you see what it does. It does this all the time. Look at this. It's more of a grind name because it's been in an uptrend for a bit. Catches a lot of flow too, this MLCO. Win had a little bull flow, but that's all it was, bull flow in Win today. That still looks good. Another name, it's higher than initial activity levels, and it's still, trending higher. So just, Tim was talking about the TLT action. Yeah, that was some crazy action today. So here's what was going on TLT. TLT, we were seeing normal sized bull call sweepers finally squeezed. And then this afternoon, a huge put sweeper came in. You can see it there, right at the top. 1.5 million June. So a short-term bet, could be one of two things, looking to protect some of these recent profits if he caught them, or he just thinks this thing came too far too quick. And TLT, as you know, there's a lot of shorts in this thing. You saw that COT data too. They've been shorting for a while. So, but interesting, I'm glad Tim brought it up. There's been bullish flow, and then this guy came in 1503 June 120s and hit them pretty hard. So something to keep an eye on. See if the flow starts to tilt the other way there. Maria, yeah, MLCO. Maria's asking about the MLCO action. Macau numbers and Vegas numbers are due this week. Okay, so that could be a reason for the flow. MLCO catches a lot of flow. They were playing today. If you like the name, you had some weakness today for that snapback, that trade. July 33 calls. July 33 calls. Oh, I missed that before. All right. What else was there? And then guys, we've been seeing a lot of this tack on action in these hot social media tech names. Facebook was active today. Green, then they gave it all back. They bought there. Microsoft continues to see smaller momentum type sweepers, whatever label you want to put on them. And she's been doing this. Look how for how long now? Comes in a couple days, right back up. Comes in a day, right back up. It's like that, pencil shading grind higher. Same with like Intel. Same thing. Me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of this type of setup. I don't know if it's more of a just an emotion thing, a comfort thing, because what I found in my experience, again, it's not initial activity, and is the upside worth the probability of a pull? That's the way I look at it. We saw this in a lot of financials, if you guys remember, before the pull. Remember what the financials look like before the pull? You see that choppy grind higher, and everyone's looking for that big move to the upside, but there's just no juice there, and then you get whoop. I'm not saying that's likely to happen in this thing, but you're weighing risk reward there. So that's why I don't get too excited. Again, they're there for that snapback trade. For me, that's the way I look at it. But you got Microsoft, Intel, Facebook, Twitter, which caught a decent bet last week. You guys remember July's, I think it was, the sweeper. Had a little pop this morning, then the market weighed on it. Saw some smaller activity this morning, Twitter. She's been doing her thing, grinding. STZ was beautiful today. Yeah, I didn't see any action in STZ. Oh, wow. I didn't even realize this thing had a little bit of a pull, too. This is around where they usually hit it, right? Same level? Close? Yeah, Samir. Maybe you get a day of weakness and they hit that again. 515 guy boy corn custard. Which one's that now you're talking about? FCX has had a little bit of flow. Nothing that's going to excite me, guys. I'm being honest. As far as new names, we need new names. Some of the old names look great too, right? IQ, but IQ had some September call spreads. I can't be buying it up here. These under the hood names. Box, where somebody told me we have Box earnings tomorrow. Joey said he bought OLED 96 calls for a swing trade and sold the 106 because I woke up too late. Joey, this is the type of market where that can frustrate you. It's waking up too late. I'm not going to feel bad for you. What do you mean waking up too late? What were you doing? Out partying last night and it cost you some money? Maybe you learned your lesson there. But if you had LASIK surgery, my bad. You see what I mean? Now you got me feeling bad. Shit. No, Joey, I mean, listen, that's going to happen. And in this crazy market, we've been seeing more of it. But, listen, the thing is what are you looking for out of the trade and how much time you have there? The only thing I suggest is if, you have some short dated stuff, you get those sell orders ready, but it's just a matter of you accidentally missing it. So don't let it bother you. It's one trade. What are you worried about? Happens. Ranchero saying CRM up nicely after hours. Yeah, a couple of you guys are long. Otherwise, I'd be rooting against it. Because that's always nice off earnings weakness. Yeah, look at that. CRM. That had some flow too, you know. Oh, by the way, you guys brought this name up. This is not looking too shabby. And the reason I say that, there hasn't been a spectacular call sweeper in NVIDIA for quite a bit. Okay. And I like that she's doing nothing. Even when some of the other names get hot, NVIDIA's been struggling and stuff, you know? So maybe this thing plays dead a little bit and catches a missile. You know, I know a lot of you guys like this name. You know, somebody mentioned this name and I kind of was ready to brush it off, and then I pulled up a chart. I was like, you know, NVIDIA's been pretty quiet. You know, catches little sweepers here and there, but these names always do that. Samir is saying ZTO had a beautiful day to me. You know, this ZTO, and what I mean by we, us in the room, we were loaded in this thing last year to catch this news today. This is what we thought we were going to catch, the Baba news. Yeah, it had some sweeper activity recently again. Which one? Oh, the July's you tailed? July 1881. Yeah, the weird strike on there. Yep. Yeah, Samir, this name we were all over. I owned it as well last year. We were looking for, it had a decent move, but just never really exploded like this. ZTO. We were calling it last year. We were calling it the FedEx of China for Baba, and that was the news. Yeah, so your patience paid off, Samir. Your patience paid off. Real nice. Again, an example of the under the hood type trade. You see what I mean, guys? This is what we need here. And of course, you know, this looks all pretty, all dolled up explosion. But this is the stuff I'm hoping for to get through these summer months. You know, not I don't know if the Microsoft's going to cut it. Yeah, you're going to, because this is all you could hope for out here. I mean, can it break? Yeah, it could break out, I guess. But with IWM leading, I think we got a good shot of catching, you know, the ZTOs, the ERIs, the WWEs, you know, by accident. And that's what I need. For me to catch a big winner, swing trade wise, I need this to happen. I need this to happen. For me to hold it and milk it and forget it, I can't do that. Yeah, AX, I mean, this is a name I don't know what to do with. Keeps going higher. The old taser catches good looking action. Look at this chart though. Jesus. Some stock. I cannot get over this is the old taser. Look at this thing. They're in streaming now too. Oh, body cameras. That's what they're doing? Tim is talking about the monthly chart. Let's see what that looks like. Oops. I got to go down here, I think. This is what? Weekly. That's the monthly. Wow. I remember this taser back here when this thing went nuts. You rarely see this. I don't know too many examples of stocks that went parabolic, went dead for years, and then come back to life like this, right? There's not too many examples. Crazy. Yep. So, but you guys have you have the right idea. You see the names, and you know they're not the most liquid names. Some of you who are playing stock instead of options, you'll enjoy that type of flow 10 times more. The under the hood action. All right, but we need to see it. We saw some decent signs coming out of the last rally, you know, and then there was confirmation with the flow and IWM outperforming. So we need to see it continue here. We need to see it continue. The worst thing that could happen is the action dries up, because then we got to be careful. Then we got to be careful. You know, if we see more days like today, even though the flow was bullish, there's no new action. You know, I come out of today with no new names on my radar. that's not a bullish sign. It's only one day. We come back from the holidays, so you don't want to make it a bigger deal than what it is. But you go through a sustained period of weeks of that type of action where they're just buying Micron and Netflix and Facebook. It's not going to last. It's not going to last. Okay. The only good thing that I will say, the only good thing is there's weakness. Okay. Because if this was an up market today, it's even more of a caution sign, because at least sentiment's getting knocked out in some of those hot sectors that they can revisit, right? So if we see money go into energy, it's not just tack on action. They're buying the pullback now. So it's a good sign. So that's why we don't want to jump the gun. All right. But you guys all have the right idea. Samir, Tim, Steven, all these names that you guys have been eyeing, that's the action we want to see. Again, PayPal, IQ, they don't have to be obscure names that you can't trade. These are all liquid names. They just can't be the FANG names, the Micron, the same names over and over and over again. Eventually that'll run its course, and put sweep or sniff that out, and that's when you get the market, all of a sudden downside pressure. All right, anybody have any last questions? Oh, I had a couple of questions on GLD. We saw some more flow there today. Just keep in mind, you had a gap up recently there. I don't want to get too nitpicky. So you had a gap up from that extreme sentiment signal, but we are seeing some flow there. So if you see some weakness and you're interested, at least you're at the right spot there, as opposed to up here. All right, we saw a little more GLD action. I think I posted it on my regular Twitter too. I'll post it later on if you guys are interested. All right, for you gold bugs out there. Anybody else have anything to add? Any questions before we go? All right, so we got another webinar on Thursday. Lucci should be there. We'll go over swing trading options. All right, because Lucci is more of an option guy than I am, obviously. I'm a flow guy, but I'm an equity guy. I mean, I play pretty simple and clean when I swing options. So Lucci will go over a couple things, key things he looks at on the option end when swing trading. All right, and if you're new to this, you want to give us a shot, we got a 3-day trial, no credit card. You can sign up for right here. 3-day trial free. All right, and you can see what we do on a day-to-day basis. Any other questions, hit Lucci or myself up on Twitter. You guys know where to find us. Thanks for stopping by. Enjoy the night. Weather's starting to turn nice. The summer's upon us. Be good, everybody.